Welcome back to another Kenan and Kel with Ab and Aaron. I'm your host, Adam.
And I'm your other host, Aaron. And this week we are going into the comic book world as we discuss the superest heroes of them all, Kenan and Kel. Oh, I mean Skunkator and Mothman. Oh, I mean
Skunkator and Patty, the Power Pixie.
Oh boy.
Yeah, we're on season 3, episode 2 of Kenan and Kel, the 90s Nickelodeon sitcom. And this is the Skunkator versus Mothman.
The most epic comic convention ever held in the history of comic conventions.
I think it's funny because the aughts is when the superhero movie really kind of took off.
This was the starting point.
Oh yeah,
right. Remember how Google Puffs? Yeah,
right.
This was also the beginning of the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Yeah, we'll have to decide who's Marvel and who's DC between Skunkator and Mothman. Joining coolly on the big orange couch, we see a very Kenan and Kel emerge on stage, and their outfits are just remind me of how much I love this era of the show. It's the perfect look for them.
Kenan's wearing a blue polo with a white stripe on the side, and then windbreaker sweatpants. And Kel's wearing a fedora with short sleeve plaid shirt opened with a blue undershirt, and then just cargo pants. It's as iconic as it gets.
And his fedora is sky blue with a pattern on it. It's real interesting.
I wonder if they wore this kind of stuff normally.
I think they look like modern people in that era.
I think so, yeah. Modern teenagers in high school, right?
Or at least the cool ones. If you remember from, I don't know, Drake and Josh, maybe iCarly era down the line, the outfits they always wear is not something you would see on the street, but it's very fashionable.
The cool kids, yeah.
Yeah, LA look.
Nothing says LA look like the Rigby's apron, though.
No, it's coming soon to a merch store near you.
Okay, so Kenan thanks the audience for their kind, warm welcome, and he's wondering why Kel is not thanking the kind people out there.
And Kel does thank them, but via a speech bubble coming out of his mouth.
Just like you'd see in a comic strip.
And it's funny because I don't think I've ever... Have you ever seen anything like this on a TV show?
No, they don't care that they're using Microsoft Paint.
Yeah, no.
They're just going for it.
The font's very consistently it's not Comic Sans, but it's just the hair off that. It's
definitely They use the most basic programming.
Yeah. And I've seen subtitled jokes before, but the full on speech, but that's really something.
Yeah, Quentin Tarantino should take notes for this one.
Absolutely. So basically, they have their user exchange. And it's a really quick intro, if you notice.
It is.
Yeah, but all of Kel's dialogue is replaced with him saying stuff in speech bubbles,
and it's what you would expect him to say.
Yeah, stuff like action-packed. Does it have to be packed with action?
Exactly. And so Kenan is talking about the episode. Kel is clearly worried, but can't say anything out loud. For some reason, Kenan can understand him, even though he doesn't see the overlay of the. And
the audience is also laughing too. So I wonder what they're seeing.
They're holding up the poster board that says "laugh."
Yeah, maybe that's it.
Roaring laughter. Yeah.
But yeah, they. Kenan rushes off screen, and Kel has a speech bubble that says,
"Can I just stay here?" And then, here it goes. It was very quick, which made me think that a lot was coming in this episode. I was right.
Yeah, a good prediction.
Oh, can I just say, I watched this while giving a test today. I was making sure I was answering my students' questions, but I was giving a test. And I started laughing out loud at a couple points, and it was very obvious.
That's really funny. I watched it during lunch, so I had similarly rushed experience. But speaking of rush, there is a big old kind of lunch rush happening at Rigby's.
Yeah, so we go behind and in front of the red counter, orange counter, red-orange, and we have a very disgruntled man. It almost seems like a character from a Good Burger sketch.
Yeah, he looks like a businessman is how I would describe him. He's on his phone, and he's got like a tie, but he's also got like a leather jacket over that.
Right, so he's like a wannabe businessman.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, maybe
works in a very small business that doesn't want to wear a suit jacket to work.
No, and he's ordering a hot dog, but Kenan is like, kind of giving him some sass. And gives him a hot dog, which is burnt to a crisp.
It's very burnt. The guy's like, hey, I can't eat this. And Kenan's trying to, like, everything's happening at once. Like, I don't know if you've ever been at your place of work and you've had everything happening at the same time.
Yep, that's exactly what's going on with Kenan. And he is not doing a good job coping with it.
The guy pays him. He's, like, shoving cash in. The phone's ringing. As the phone's ringing, like, Does the ice machine kick in yet? Yeah, the ice machine starts shaking.
Yeah, let's talk about this new ice machine that they got.
The terrible investment.
It's got like two giant lights on it. One's blue and one's green, and they look angry, like it's like a face.
It's very fake. So fake.
Yeah. Can you read what it says?
No, something ridiculous.
It says, "Buy ice, frozen water."
Wow, that's like those. What is, like, write a short story in 4 words?
Yeah. What's that? It's a 4-word short story.
Well, anyways, like, Kenan is all by himself, which we find out in a couple of minutes he's not. Chris is in the back, but he's just not helping him.
Yeah, why isn't Chris out front?
Don't worry about it. So the guy's like, I'm not eating this hot dog. What does Kenan say?
Yes, you are.
Sure you can. He's like, I can't eat this. Sure you can. He grabs it and shoves it in the guy's mouth. And then he goes over to the ice machine, tries to, like, fix it. And then what happens, Adam?
So we're introduced to a new character on the show.
Is she recurring?
She's recurring, yes.
Oh, fantastic.
She's kind of the Ethel Quagmire, like, substitute for these last 2 seasons. Maybe she's spending all her, like, millions right now in the show. Out of the show, she's probably, like, a Florida native.
She's probably riding her golf cart around. There's a lady, and she is very interested in these Washington red delicious apples.
Yes, and she keeps quizzing Kenan on what they are, and I'm sure you've had this experience before with a customer or a student.
It was a really good, I must say, it was a really good, like, parody moment or caricature, or like whatever you want to call it.
Yes.
They did a great job of, like, capturing the absolute essence of certain customers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so she asks, what is it? And Kenan says, they're Washington red delicious apples. And she asks, are these apples?
He's like, yes. She says, I see.
Where are they grown? And Kenan goes through their whole name again.
They're Washington red delicious apples. They were grown in Washington. She goes, are they delicious? Or what she said, how do they taste?
Are they delicious is what she asks. And yeah, Kenan's like losing because he's with other customers too. He's like, yes, Washington red delicious apples. And she says, I see. Are these apples red?
She's like, she is out of, as the kids would say, out of pocket.
Yeah, it does. Kenan like storms over to the apple cart and like explains to her in great detail. These are Washington red delicious apples. They are from Washington. They are most certainly delicious, and they are red. Are you gonna buy them or not?
No, thank you.
Great bit. Yeah,
it was really funny, and I got a lot of like all that vibes from this opening scene. Yeah, I thought it was really well done.
That's just you can give that bit at any era, and it'd be hilarious.
Yep, and it's the right amount of hilarious because it's so clearly like not real, but at the same time it could be.
Yeah, no, it's not realistic, but it could happen. Yes,
not that far off. Yeah,
no. So Kel enters Rigby's. And tries to get Kenan's attention.
Kenan says, I can't talk right now.
He says, yes you can, I just heard you.
Yeah, and Kenan's just like at his last straw, and then the ice machine rumbles again, and the lady standing in front of him says, hey, I think there's something wrong with your ice machine. It's just like, are you kidding?
Yeah. So
Enter Chris.
Right. He joins
Randomly.
the scene.
He just, decides to show up, wake up from his nap.
Yeah, he's got a bed back there. Maybe that's what he was doing. He explains to Kenan, how to handle, the hot dogs and the ice machine. It tries to cool things off since he's been overwhelmed.
Yes, and then Kel says something quite enlightening to Chris. He says, hey, your name's Chris Potter. Backwards, that's Shrick Retop. And Chris looks at him, very puzzled, and says, yes. I didn't do that very well. Yes.
Much better, yeah.
He's like, what are you talking about? Why does this matter?
Yeah, it's pretty good. And then Kel talks to Kenan here about the upcoming comic book convention in Chicago.
Yeah, it's happening this Saturday, and Kenan realizes that he can't make it because he has to work.
Yeah, he says to Kel, did you say this Saturday? Hang on, let me check. And then you see Kel kind of go back over his words. I like this era of Kel a lot. He's
in his prime.
He's the perfect amount of funny. He's the right amount mix of stupid and kind of his own style of humor.
He's in his slapstick glory.
Yeah, absolutely. Chris floats the idea that, Kenan, since you've been so busy lately, I've been thinking about hiring another employee.
Yeah, and he's like, you could use some help. And Kenan is, amazed by that. So amazed that he breaks into a daydream, which ends up being just a transition scene to back home at the Rockmore residence.
Yeah, I like the practical effects of this because it's a spotlight drops on Kenan.
Yeah. All the lights dim and a spotlight drops on him. Yeah, I forgot about that.
Oh! And Cal's he's sitting on the counter, he's kind of looking up, where's that light coming from? And they don't mention it, but it's really cool that they can do bits like that.
Yeah, they have so much fun.
So yeah, Kenan is now ecstatic. The two new things that are coming up, the Comic-Con and
a new employee to cover his Saturday shifts. And one thing I do want to say about Kenan this episode especially, his facial expressions are outrageous.
Notch.
Yeah, I know he's really finding his own. He's acting with his face. He really is. Whatever jokes there are, whatever goofiness there is behind his acting. That's the reason he's famous. Those facial expressions of, it's so funny, and you really see it in this episode.
He's been on SNL for 17 years off those facial expressions.
Yeah, it's one of the longest people, or the longest.
Yeah, the longest. We go back to the Rockmore household, the new Rockmore household, I should say. You can tell that they've really done you've got some renovations that have gone on. Because it's a new, that's the cool thing about it. You don't, it's tough to notice, but it's a new set. They're now in, I've looked at the studio. Nickelodeon Sunset is where they are right now in California.
Sunset Strip. All right.
Yeah.
It makes sense that they have a little remodel because, they had moved and came back.
Yeah. I have a pet theory that they may have. What if they moved into a nearly identical house when they came back?
Stop it. That's ridiculous. I suppose it's possible because there's probably a lot of row homes and.
Yeah, maybe. I guess what I'm just thinking because it's crazy that they did renovations after the whole went to Montana deal.
I wonder what Roger's doing for work now.
I assume he's back at the airport, but I couldn't tell you. Hopefully we'll find out later. But they go from the kitchen to the family room, and Kenan and Kel are talking about the Comic-Con.
Yeah, and they are just going. You know how it is when you're really into your favorite character.
Oh yeah,
you're like, oh, this person would win because this, and this. Or it's you're really obsessed with some individual, and so you're like, Bear Grylls would totally last longer than Les Stroud in the wild. And you're just pitting everything against each other because you really want your guy to win and come out on top, like Superman or Batman. And this is the Skunkator and Mothman debate.
And I like it because of how real that is. That feels like something two friends would argue over.
Not just two friends though, because Mr. and Mrs. Rockmore chime in.
Yes, yeah, that's awesome. So, just a full recap. Yeah, they're looking at the flyer for it, and they see autographs are being signed by Mothman and Patty the Power Pixie, and Kenan's really excited because they're selling a Skunkator number 6. that's the last one he needs to complete his collection.
And we just see how Kenan, I mean, there's people have many levels and many different interests, and we're finding out now. Like we got a text from our sister today who was basically saying like, "Hey, Adam, I used to make fun of you for playing these games, and now I really want to play D&D." And it's like, yeah, nerds, traditional nerd stuff. Even back in the 90s, it wasn't seen in such a high light as it is today. There wasn't that much of a market for it. But so like kind of, with that in mind, seeing Kenan, who's this like sports guy, like carried a football around class, who's also like really into comic books.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. And I think, it's definitely game changing.
He's got layers.
Yeah, I agree. It's also funny to see how different things change in like is it, 22 years?
Right.
Yeah, of how this used to be a really frowned upon, or it's kind of like a little kiddie event, and maybe it's a very childish thing for Chris and Kenan to be into.
I mean, this episode may have been like very strategic. Like they wanted to actually get other people to be interested in Kenan and Kel because they didn't want to just think that they were like these unrelatable characters. Maybe.
Yeah, interesting. But yes, you're right. So basically, when Kenan mentions Skunkator, Kel's like, Skunkator's not that great. Mothman's way better. And it begins this argument that lasts the entire episode. Kenan says Skunkator's stink ray will clearly defeat Mothman, but he can turn into a cocoon and protect himself. And then, through the kitchen, Roger chimes in that Mothman can fly underwater.
Go underwater, so he would totally beat.
He would kick Skunkator's butt.
And then Cheryl says that
you're forgetting about Skunkator's razor sharp tail.
Yeah, it's like, so they're just they're chiming in. It's a really funny moment.
It's really awesome too, because we complained in the past about them not having enough to do, and so them like getting involved. They have stakes in the Skunkator versus Mothman fight. Are really
there's sufficient, and this is pretty much all we see from them this episode. But that's sufficient. It's like it's good. They're good supporting roles.
Yeah, and Cheryl also says, "Please, I could beat up Mothman."
She's just belittling, and then it keeps going, and then Roger finally says, "Mothman would win. I agree with Kel."
I can't believe I said that.
And that's pretty much the end of the debate. Swing over to Rigby's. Unless there's anything else you want to add there.
Yeah, no, the scene ends with Kenan kind of transitioning himself and saying that, we're going to, don't worry, I'm sure we'll have a very, very talented group of individuals applying for Rigby's.
Right.
Smash cut to
the back of Rigby's and Ned, weird guy Ned. You can just imagine.
Yeah. Who's writing a survival guide live in front of them.
Is that what is he doing?
No, he's literally filling out the application, like in front of them.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, in front of them, like staring. Yeah, they're just like staring at him, and they're like, "You're supposed to fill that out beforehand." And
he says,
"Are you telling me what to do?"
And Chris immediately folds. And he's like, "No, I was just suggesting."
Like, nobody tells me what to do. He stands up, like breaks the pencil.
Yeah, throws it at them and leaves. And Kel begins his chain of just really up. He's like, not bad.
his poor recruitment, his poor human resource management,
but just blindly trusting people.
Yeah, and they're also, I don't know if we mentioned this, they're in the back of Rigby's, and so there's like a desk back there right by the door. It's a pretty funny set, but it suits this.
Mm-hmm. It's another remade set, and you can really see that the walls look, I don't know, kind of clayed together. Yeah,
like you could knock him down.
Oh, well, as he slams the door, something falls off the shelf behind him. But anyway, yeah. So surely the next guy will be better,
right? And they did point out as well. He says like, nobody tells me what to do. It's like, well, isn't that part of like getting a job? And then he's loose. It's like, yeah. What? Who is this man?
I will say, Kenan's wearing a delicious shirt in this scene.
Oh, you're right. Oh, it is quite delicious. It's yellow and orange with like diamonds, and it's of course like a button down short sleeve shirt.
Yeah. So who's the next guy? What's he got going on?
He's blasting music, and is he playing a Game Boy?
Yeah, I feel like it's a Game Boy is what they're going for.
Yeah.
So yeah, he's really just totally ignoring them and playing a game. Which Cal still thumbs up and gives a nodding approval.
Well, that didn't last very long. Next we have, who do we have next, Adam?
So it's all three of them are holding their nose, and Kenan asks the guy, "When was the last time you took a bath, man?" And he says,
7 years.
"Yeah, it looks like you see this really like greasy guy."
He's bad. I would prefer him than the next guy. The next one is so frustrating to me. Well, I don't understand it at all.
Yeah, after Cal approves of the last guy, we go to the next guy who says he's great with employees. He was the supermarket employee of the month.
And he's also sitting there butt naked. He's not a very attractive man.
No, he's the kind of naked that's kind of it's funny naked.
Well, I don't know why they did this.
So why they had this giant,
this large naked man? It doesn't even make sense. Who walks around Chicago naked?
Yeah, it's a lot of kind of these guys they're all wrong in like the same way.
Yeah.
So yeah, they point that out to him, except Kel, who asks, "Do you like orange soda?" And he loves orange soda, so Kel still nods and approves of him.
Yes. Anyways, these candidates clearly suck. And so next on the list is the last one. Her name is
Sharla Morrison.
That was Charlotte.
Nope, Sharla.
Sharla Morrison. Okay.
Yep. And she immediately has a great interview.
Oh yeah.
How much interviewing have you done? Because this is some really good skills that she has.
Oh, I've done a little bit. Yep. She did very well.
Yeah.
Why don't you explain?
Well, she immediately has her application filled out, and she has experience working in like stores like this. And she once Chris brings that up, she like kind of adds a bonus to that information that she didn't say like, "Oh, I'm so great," right? She says, "Oh yeah, at my last job, I helped like them install a computer system to keep track of sales."
No, so they could order stuff off the internet.
Yeah. To which Kenan is immediately like kind of like he has to.
When I laughed out loud. Kenan goes, "Well, it was my idea to put the candy on the counter so that more people would get it right before they check out or something like that."
In alphabetical order. And then Chris is like, "You did do that. Yeah, that was a big help."
He's like a child. He's like, "Well, actually,
yeah, he can't be like undone."
And we should say that Charlotte is like a young, like fairly like attractive, like, you know, whatever. She's like, that's like her role is supposed to be this like really solid individual, good candidate, but also like, you know.
I think we learned later in the season that she's like goes to the same school as them.
Oh, okay.
So like, yeah, she's kind of in their age range. I think they're like 16, 17 by this point.
Yeah.
Season 3 at there, I think canonically 17.
Canonically.
So yeah, no, they're Chris. After one interview question, Chris is just like, "Yeah, okay, great. When can you start?"
Yep. So she gets the job. She's going to be there at 9 a.m. on Saturday, and Kenan is also going to be there at 9 a.m. to train her.
Yeah, the little onboarding process. So Kenan's excited that she can start Saturday, but upset that he she's not starting soon enough. I can't get to the Comic-Con.
Yeah, so he's still not going to be able to make it. And Adam, why on earth could Chris not make it on Saturday?
Oh, of course, he has to take his mother to the petting aquarium to pet the fishes.
And that's that. So Kenan leaves, and then Kel follows. But this is why Kel is so great.
Yeah, because Kenan's upset that he has to come in, so he like kind of hangs his head, walks out the door. And then Kel says, "Wait up, Kenan." Then he hangs his head too, but because
he misses the door. He misses the door. He hits the molding and falls straight back. And when I say straight back, he literally, it's like standing, walking, boom, and then just falls back.
Yeah, so Kel does a great job heightening every scene that he's in and making it funnier.
Yeah, that's true.
So we go to Kenan's bedroom, where he's looking out the window like mourningly that his Comic-Con's been destroyed.
Sulking.
Yeah.
Like this is the worst thing that has ever happened.
Oh, I should say that the transition between these two is really good because it shows you the Skunkator number 6.
Oh, I didn't notice.
It's the artwork on the front of the cover. Yeah, you see like this guy with like kind of a mask on and a skunk tail, and with that he's like a purple and silver. So it's a pretty neat piece of paraphernalia.
Well, anyways, Kenan is upset, but he's pretty determined to make it to this convention somehow.
Yeah, after Kel kind of goes over, it's like, you can do the next one. That's only like 360 days away, which is only like 8,760 hours.
And Kel's strange ability to do math.
Yeah, but yeah, Kenan has a plan or a plot to make both these things happen. And I don't know if you felt this way before, but it's having a busy schedule where you're really cramming stuff together.
And so basically he's like, okay, I'll just go there, I'll show her what to do, and then I'll leave and go to the Comic-Con.
Yeah, a crash course in the morning so that he can go to the con.
The con.
Yeah.
Wrath of the cons. And then they leave with a brief but effective Skunkator Mothman debate.
Yeah, they go back and forth. Then Kel's like, I'm not going to argue with you. I'll see you tomorrow. And he leaves through the door. And he jumps back in through the door. Mothman! And runs away.
And we've all been there too.
We go to Sharla being onboarded that Saturday morning. And Kenan is very quickly going through the items. And he's like, yeah, batteries over here, clean equipment there. You name it, we got it.
What about a picnic table?
Picnic table? You
said if you name it, you got it. And Kenan is just appalled that somebody would give him that much sass so early on a Saturday.
Yeah, they've got a good dynamic because Sharla's really like the Kenan to Kenan. Right? She's like, Kenan's usually witty and sassy and stuff like that. So when someone is twice as sassy to him, that's fun to see.
Okay, here's the weird part about this, Adam.
Mm-hmm.
Why is Kenan not allured by Sharla?
Oh, immediately?
Yeah, the episode before this.
Yeah, good point.
So why is he not amazed? Well, he's so focused on the comic book. He's choosing comic books over he could spend an entire day with this new girl that he happens to just be going to be working and spending a bunch of time with. And in a normal episode, he would be all over that. But now he's like, no, comic books. I need my Skunkator number 6 to complete my collection.
He's got a very one-track mind, and he was already on the Skunkator track.
Yeah, it's like he put his blinders on. Maybe one of Kenan's character flaws.
Yeah, well, I would agree. He's not seeing the big picture.
No, not at all.
Yeah. So yeah, but he says to Sharla, "We don't have time for your witty little observations."
The ice machine starts rumbling, and Kenan's just like, "Oh, it's fine. I'm sorry. I'm watching ahead a little bit. Yeah. I just saw the funny moment."
The other part is he points out to this is the nervous system right here.
Oh, this is good. Yeah. So he goes over to the counter and the cash register, and he says that it's the nervous system of Rigby's.
And Sharla's just like, "Oh, really? I thought this was a cash register."
Yeah, and it's like Kenan is being matched.
Yeah. He just says, "Oh, again with the wit."
He's just over it at this point.
Yeah.
But interesting metaphor by Kenan about the nervous system of Rigby's.
Ooh.
Right? We could pile that onto the power dynamics of the counter, and we could get a pretty interesting conversation about the role of the brain and making cognitive decisions in terms of power dynamics.
And as we'll see throughout this episode, you need that nervous system for things to function properly.
That is true.
Chris comes in the back, and Kenan is very solemn that he has to leave. He's kind of putting on a show because he knows that he's going to sneak out. So he kind of hangs his head, goes to the back room, and Chris accounts to Sharla. He's like, "I feel terrible that Kenan's not going to go to the Comic-Con. You know what I'm going to do? he's going to go to Comic-Con to buy Kenan the Skunkator number 6 that he wants.
And it's a very sweet moment. It's like, oh, Chris actually does care about Kenan, but here's Kenan who's going to just stab him in the back, basically.
Yeah. So it's a good dynamic back and forth. I got to say that this episode was written by Alex Reed, the same guy that wrote the Turkey Day episode. This is his second one, and again, went on to receive an Emmy for the bowling Malcolm in the Middle episode. So you can tell there's some good TV writing going on here.
Oh yeah, definitely. Another good piece, like Kel comes in and goes,
This might be one of my favorite Kel scenes.
Oh, go for it.
Yeah, well, Sharla first says, That's really sweet of you, Mr. Potter. Please call me Chris. And then Kel says, oh, I call him Cirque Retop.
Right.
And he says to Kel, you make my head hurt. Really? This is what makes my head hurt.
He goes over, he grabs like a jug of like oil or whatever, and then hits himself in the head and falls over.
Yeah, just knocks himself out.
And it's like, well, yes, this is what we need in the world. We need Kel just destroying himself.
But yeah, so Chris leaves, and the second that Chris leaves, Kenan kind of like emerges, and he's like, oh, Sharla, I gotta do something. I'll be back later. Bye.
She's like, well, wait, but what about and then she's left all by herself.
Yeah, she doesn't know how, and like, she doesn't know how to work anything. Like, one's like, what about the cash register? He's like, I'm gonna show you it all later. And he like leaves.
Yep. So anyways, Charlotte's all by herself. And then enter the comic convention, right? We made it.
Yep.
And now, Adam, can you describe the set for me?
Well, the set of the big comic book convention, as it's literally called, looks like a big kind of purple room. Right?
Hospital waiting room?
It's kind of,
because that's what I saw.
Yeah,
It was terrible, horrible set.
It's not. It should be in like a big kind of convention hall type setting, but there's a lot of walls and corners, and it's clearly a tiny set.
There's Toothman, and there's a human funnel, I believe.
Either human funnel or human puddle. I think funnel is funnier.
And then Kel's like, "Oh, orange soda," and you'd expect like a giant orange soda can, but no, there's just a guy selling orange soda. Runs over, says, I love orange soda. Is that true? I do. Ooh.
If you'll notice that they're Food Line cans.
They are.
We took a departure from Food Line for a bit of that last season, but no, they're back in full force.
Yep. They're back, and so they're amazed. They're looking around like in awe. You know how you feel when you walk into like a big hall and there, or like a whatever. There's like a big event happening. Mm-hmm. That clearly wasn't happening here. They were just acting because the set is so underwhelming. But anyways, and then they hear a familiar voice.
It's Chris. He's asking for directions to the food court. And, like, Kenan Kel hide behind a plant. And Kenan's just like, oh, he deceived me. He's not going out with his mom. He came here. And they says, that's ironic.
And he starts to twitch.
Oh, yeah.
He does he's like hiding behind this sign, and he's like twitching. Like, how could he do this?
Yeah. And he explains to Kel, if he spots us, we'll get fired. So we got to get that Skunkator comic. We come back to Sharla, who's having a lot of the problems that Kenan was having the day before.
The ice machine is starting to rumble, and she's handing somebody a burnt hot dog. She can't open the cash register. Like, all things that were shown in that first initial scene from Kenan.
And she's like, Kenan, where are you? And then we cut to commercial. After the commercial, Kenan and Kel have obtained disguises.
Yes, they have, Adam.
And I gotta say that this is, just from a modern day perspective, I'm very confused about what exactly happened. Like, did they go into a back room where people, like, suit up? Is there no, like, cosplay stuff here where, like, people just show up wearing costumes for other heroes? There's only, like, one of them?
I feel like this is before, like, actual Comic-Con. I think this was the first one, probably.
Yeah, maybe this really inspired the trend going forward.
Kenan Kel, inspiration for the
of Kenan
for
Kel,
the cinematography universe.
Yeah, of Kenan Kel dressing up as some of their favorite heroes.
One day, like, the world is going to end, and the aliens are going to come, and they're going to say, like we would like to first thank Kenan and Kel for changing the course of history. He's going to be confused, but we'll be sitting here like, we know. Thank you.
It doesn't have to be aliens that say that. Anyone could say that. That's a little...
Not the aliens. Okay, God.
Okay. Do you want to explain? Who do you want to explain what they're dressed as?
I'll explain Kenan, who is clearly dressed as Skunkator. He looks like a skunk. He's got a big skunk hat, a big skunk outfit, and a massive skunk tail, and little tiny skunk booties.
Yeah. His logo on his chest, it looks very homemade. That's what gave me like the cosplay vibe.
Oh,
It looks like you can like kind of see that when they put sparkles on it and stuff like that.
so let's just remind everybody that they're dressing up so that Chris doesn't recognize them.
Yes. And
That's the whole point.
I assume they've gone into the back room and taken these costumes from the actual people.
Stolen them.
Yeah. Kel is dressed as he's got a wig on, a mask, a kind of a morph suit, and a boots and a tutu, and he's bright pink because he's Patty the Power Pixie,
Which is a great character.
Yeah, we learn about some of Patty's powers and stuff like that later on. But yeah,
That's right.
Every time he says that, he does a little kind of like dance move and sprinkles like glitter everywhere. I love that Kel the character and Kel the actor are just loving dressing up in this
Oh, they're just having a blast, right? And that's what makes this show so fun. It's because Kenan and Kel love this show. They love making it. It doesn't seem like work.
Yeah, he doesn't like. He has no shame about like being dressed in this way. At the time, I think would be the way that Kenan plays. Like if he dressed in this outfit, he would not be having as much fun as Kel.
No, yeah, Kel's having a blast.
Yeah.
It fits him.
So that's what happens, and they go to the kind of Skunkator section of the con, and Kenan is waylaid by fans asking for autographs. And a little kid that gets into an argument with him.
Yeah, I don't know. He asked him about who this person was or what move he used when he was fighting this person, something like that.
Yeah, the important part of it is that he's like, can you burn a hole in Patty using your laser vision? And he very much explains, Skunkator does not have laser vision. Because it's a common mistake, apparently. He references
That came up earlier when Cheryl and Roger were arguing, I think, or something like that.
Yeah. So, Kel's very insistent that Mothman has laser vision, he must be better.
We quick cut back to Sharla, who is still having a bad time. And that's basically all we get from back there.
Yeah, there's smoke coming out of the hot dogs. The ice machine is pouring piles of ice everywhere. I don't know how this machine is normally supposed to work, but I feel like loose ice isn't like what's supposed to happen.
No, there's ice shooting out.
She sprays the one of the customers with a fire extinguisher.
Oh yeah, it's just a mess.
A huge mess. Meanwhile, at Comic-Con, Kenan goes to get a Skunkator at number 6 when Chris sneaks up behind him.
Which doesn't that seem suspicious? Why is Skunkator getting his own comic book?
Yeah.
It's a terrible plan. He could have been anybody else.
He's literally signing other people's Skunkator comics.
Yeah, he has to get his own.
So it's a weird kind of half cosplay, half like he is this guy. Chris is like, it basically tells Kenan as Skunkator, or like he doesn't know that it's Kenan. He's like, I'm buying this for my employee who really wanted to be here today, and he's your biggest fan. It's a really sweet moment.
Yeah, it's kind of like the Christmas episode, It's like a little bit like that. Like, oh. Mm-hmm. Kenan recognized how good people are instead of how they're always just thinking they're always trying to win one over on you.
Yeah, he literally went from like, a scene ago thinking that Chris is like deceiving him and lying to him that, oh no, Chris is actually being a better person than me. Like way better. Chris admits that Patty is his favorite superhero.
And so and Chris is and Patty is of course blown away, and so Chris is so excited that he wants to get a picture with the both of them.
Yeah, he gets a Polaroid taken, and the guy gives it to him. He's like, I'm gonna get this framed and give it to Kenan too. Great, this will be awesome. And Kenan's like, wow, this day's going great. That's when we cut to the crazy stuff happening with Sharla.
Right, and Sharla, she's got a mop, she's swiping the ice, she's spraying fire extinguisher everywhere. Mm-hmm. It is a mess. And I might say I'm not impressed with the way the rest of the episode goes.
Oh yeah.
But let's see what happens anyways.
Well, as they're leaving, Kel is excited that Mothman is there. He's signing autographs, and he goes to get his autograph. And he basically introduces Mothman to Skunkator, has them shake hands, and he brings their argument to like real life.
For some reason, Mothman has a lisp.
Yeah, Mothman's got like kind of a nerdy voice.
Yeah, and so Kel is like, he like brings them together, and he's like, "Wow, look, you're finally meeting," and he's almost acting like it's real.
Yeah,
I think that's the best part.
I gotta say that the Patty and Skunkator costumes are very passable. Like, despite being kind of, made by the wardrobe department, clearly the props team had a fun time with that. But Mothman was like an afterthought.
It's really, really bad.
They made Mothman with whatever they had on hand.
Oh, it's so he's wearing like pantyhose as like a costume.
Yeah, he's got like this pink morph suit on. He's got like those like party antennas on top of his head. And a butterfly mask. It's not even moth, it's a butterfly mask.
It's a big mask.
Yeah, wings that look clearly strapped to his back, and like on his chest he has what looks like, I call it like a native warrior, like armor. Like it does not belong at all in his costume.
It looks like it belongs on a table. Like it looks like it's like a runner.
Yeah, right.
It's like a bamboo runner. It's bad, and it's held together with like literally rope tied to his like. It's so bad. Yeah. He's wearing like black rubber gloves too, like you'd use to wash dishes.
So they can have a back and forth where Mothman gloats about his photon rockets. Skunkator gloats about his Rigby torpedoes and the ability to turn invisible.
And meanwhile, there's a crowd gathering.
Oh yeah, you can tell a fight's gonna break out soon. Kenan's mocking Mothman's lisp and says I could smack you with a roll-up newspaper. All that happens, and it builds to Mothman pushing Skunkator.
That's right.
Wait, do you know what he does?
No.
He delivers.
I think I was answering a question at this point.
He delivers this crazy like three touch push. He goes boom 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 and like pushes him away.
Interesting.
That moment just always stuck with me for some reason. The same thing in Most Winter Blues when he does like the foot tap at the bottom of the stairs.
Right. There's like a hype man behind Skunkator, and oh my gosh, the audience reactions are really good. They're just like, whoa! It's like, yeah, you tell him. It's really funny.
Moved by the audience, they break out into full-on just wrestling each other.
That's not really wrestling. They're like clearly trying to make it look like they're punching, but they're just like rocking each other back and forth.
Yeah, I feel like a different show might have a little more choreography.
They might have been rushed for time. Anyways, a bell comes down to signal like the end of the fight in a transition to our next scene.
Yeah. The final thing you hear is one of the kids in the audience shouting, "This is the greatest day of my entire life!"
Yes, all 3 years or 5 years or whatever.
Yeah. So back at Rigby's, Sharla is distressed.
She is just like, she has failed. She looks like she's not having a good time. There's ice everywhere. It's smoking. The ice machine's smoking. The hot dog machine is smoking. There is fire extinguisher just about everywhere, all over the coffee maker and the whole back wall. It's all burnt to a crisp.
And she is like, kind of hands on head, lying on top of the counter.
This can't be happening.
Yeah, which tells you what the counter is all about. She's lost the power, control of the situation.
She has totally lost control.
So Skunkator, beat up Kenan and Kel, still in costume, enter the store. Yeah.
What do they think's gonna happen? Why are they still in costume? They're thieves. They're thieves.
They stole these costumes.
And they just walked around town like he's not supposed to be there.
Mm-hmm. With his giant tail and everything. So yeah, no, they Charlotte's like really giving him a hard time, which he deserves. She's like, how can you leave me alone like that? And Kenan's like similarly freaking out about what happened. He's like, oh, look at this mess, and like, oh, why is all the ice out? He turns off the machine and tells her what, like, she should turn the hot dog temperatures down, and she's like, yeah, you didn't tell me that. You didn't tell me anything.
Yeah, it's stressful for her.
Yeah, it's some real drama, I'd say. And a good joke in the middle of it is that he says, why is the ice all here? And she's like, why don't you melt it with your laser vision? Skunkator's have laser vision.
She's a good character, and she's actually a pretty good actress too.
Oh yeah, Alexis Fields. I'm sure we'll have a lot to say about her going on.
At all related to Kim Fields?
Good question. I don't think so.
Okay,
we'll find out.
We'll find out. We'll do some digging.
Yeah. So Kenan goes back to change as Chris pulls up, And Chris is very, very upset with the scene.
He's like, how could you let this happen? What's going on? And he's very he's upset that his store looks like it's in ruins and there's no customers.
Yeah. Kenan comes to like the front and like, covers for Sharla.
He says,
it isn't all her fault. She asked me to get change, so I went to the bank.
Well, no, that's not what happened, Adam. I forgot what Kenan says, and then Chris is like really upset still, and he turns to Sharla. He says, "Is this true?" And Sharla says, "Yeah, we needed change, so Kenan went to the bank." I think that's what happened.
Right. Yeah, that's the counter cover.
Right, and so she is covering for Kenan, who she was just upset at.
Mm-hmm. Which is some really, really good, and I'd even say healthy coworker dynamics. Yeah. Neither of them are throwing the other under the bus fully. They're splitting the blame, and thus, Chris would probably have fired Sharla if Kenan had not said anything.
Yeah, and so Kenan took the blame, which was actually probably the first time he's ever taken responsibility for anything.
Yeah, which is
pretty monumental, honestly.
It's a good emotional and learning episode for Kenan. And yeah, Sharla extends the favor, and Chris basically says, "Yeah, just clean this place up. I'm mad, but my madness is split between the two of you."
And then Chris is like, "Yeah, Kenan, I got you this gift, but blah blah blah. Or, I'm very disappointed in you." He pulls like a father moment, and then he hands him the gift anyways, and it's signed. And he's like, "Wow!" Kenan says, "Wow, I'm so surprised."
And Kel says, "What about the picture?"
And Chris is like, "Yeah, well, how do you know about the picture?"
And yeah, they're getting very nervous. And then he looks down at Kenan and he's like, "Kenan, what is with those shoes?"
He's still got the Skunkator booties on.
Yeah, he's like Skunkator Uggs.
Yeah, they look like skunks.
Yeah, and he explains that these are my bedroom boots. I forgot to take them off this morning.
That's a great cover. How do you forget to take them off?
Well, yeah, and Chris, hook, line, and sinker. He's like, "Oh, I should get some of those for Mother."
And Chris just basically leaves, and Kenan walks over to Sharla and's like, "Hey, why'd you cover for me? Like, thanks for doing that, but why'd you do it?" And she has a really good moment where she's like, "Hey, we're coworkers now. We got to look out for each other. Only catch is because you did this to me, you now have to work my Saturdays for the next month." And
he agrees. So
it's pretty fair.
He came out a lot more responsible than he started with. Really good lesson, I think.
Yeah, pretty happy ending of this episode, too, I would say.
Well, until Mothman enters Rigby's randomly. Maybe he heard from someone down the street and they're like, have you seen a skunk boy run through here?
And, there was a skunk dressed and walking into Rigby's, and so they're like, yeah, he went in there.
Yeah.
Because he stupidly didn't take off his costume.
Yeah, so Mothman immediately comes in, looks down at his boots, and says, "You!" and reignites their fight.
And they're wrestling on the ground, and it's the kind of chaos, and Kel doesn't know what to do, and Sharla's like, "What's happening?" And that is pretty much the end of the episode.
Yep. Back on stage, Kenan is dressed normally, but Kel is dressed as Patty once again. He's got the theory that if he puts his pixie dust on Kenan, then he can stop him from, he can command him to not get them into more trouble.
Yeah, he'll do whatever he asks him to do.
Kenan reveals that, maybe you can use that magic to get me another Skunkator number 6, because Mothman ripped mine in half.
So it was kind of all for nothing.
Well, I've been chewing on that since I watched this during lunch. And I think that I'm okay with this ending. At first I was like, it kind of sucks because that nice moment by Chris was ruined. But I think it's proper punishment for Kenan, for what he did.
Yeah.
He probably could have gotten fired. Sharla covered for him, fine, but she didn't have any good reason to do that. It's kind of a good lesson for him that, if he hadn't gone to Comic-Con, he would have been better off than if he went.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, and it is a nice moment. You're right. It is a nice moment for Kenan. A nice moment. And Kenan got what he deserved, you should say.
He got what he deserved, unfortunate as it is. So he tells Kel to get 3 random things. Do you know what those are?
Porridge, a sunboard, and bug spray.
Yep.
And go to the secret hideaway. Come on.
Punchy.
I don't know about the sunboard. I don't know if that's what he said.
I wrote surfboard.
Something bad.
Yeah.
Something, yeah.
But yeah, and Kel shouts back at him, Kenan, I don't like porridge. And that's the episode. So, Aaron,
is it.
So let me ask you, whose fault do you think this episode is, Kenan's or Kel's?
Well, gee, that's really a thinker. I'm gonna have to go with Kenan.
Yeah, no, it's his. It's his incredible scheme that gets Sharla messed up, and Kel didn't do anything wrong except maybe introduce Skunkator to Mothman.
That wasn't even wrong. He was just doing what anybody at a comic convention would do.
Yeah, Kenan, who was in a situation he's trying to get out of, decided to fight his way out. So,
I mean, the costumes were the fault. It was the episodes. Whoever the costume designer was, that's whose fault it is.
I will not disagree with that. So yeah, some damages done to Rigby's are very superficial, I would say. I don't know how much it takes to clean that place up.
Definitely not as much as like you would imagine. Mm-hmm. Just a little elbow grease would clean that place up perfectly.
Plus, what cost would you ascribe to someone that is no longer a customer? That's like a long form investment.
Right. Yeah. Not much cost. Just the episode was just silly. It was goofy.
Yeah.
Goofballs.
Oh, well,
goofballs in action.
In that case, quick question for you. Whose not whose fault, but
whose fault? It is also Kenan's fault again. This podcast will loop.
Yeah, okay.
Forever.
We're stuck on the same bits. So let's just get into the ratings then. So on IMDb, this episode is ranked 34 out of 62, which is pretty low. That's like right below halfway.
Gee, I wonder why. Was it the set? Was it the costumes? Was it the plot line?
Must not have been memorable. They only gave it a 7.5. Out of 10 bottles of orange soda, how many would you give this episode?
7.
7?
Yeah.
Wow. It's pretty low.
What didn't really tickle my fancy in the long run.
This was a very high memorable episode for me. And I kept knocking off points once I found some of the logic holes, but for me, it's still, I wouldn't give it like 8.5 bottles of orange soda.
I might bump mine up eventually to kind of match IMDb's, but for right now, I got to be critical. I can't give every episode a 7.5 to 8, so I'm trying to make sure I'm fairly critical.
I just understood. Like I would be, if I did not know we're in like the middle of the Kenan Kel golden age, I would think differently. But it's where my heart is. All right.
I understand entirely.
So before we go, I would like to share something with you.
Okay.
Another review of ours.
Oh, the second listener.
We've had at least 3 people write to us.
Oh, wow.
So
thank you for writing.
Yeah, this one is from a user named SkyNetT888. And they said, I grew up watching Kenan Kel and recently discovered the CBS streaming service has nearly every episode on the show, so I began watching again. The show is still laying on the floor in a yellow puddle while your stomach hurts from laughing funny. After watching a handful of episodes again, I decided to see if anyone has a podcast for K&K. Sure enough, I found this show. You guys hit the ground running and have great sound quality, personalities, and a clear passion and love for the show. 5 stars for you.
Wow. Yeah. Skynet. Do you think he grew up in the 90s? His username Skynet.
They have. Thank you for the wonderful...
So much Terminator. Yes, thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks for the review and the 5 stars. If you also leave a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, we'll happily read it on the show.
Believe it or not, Adam and I actually have the same exact personality type, though we are pretty much opposites in real life.
INFJ, right?
That's it.
You were super excited to learn that until you learned that I also had that.
I don't believe Myers-Briggs. I think they were on crack or something.
Okay, well, join us next time for we tackle season 3, episode 3, The Raffle.
Dun dun dun! Not to be confused with The Lottery.
No, entirely different episodes.
Much smaller scale here. Okay. Until next time, Fantas. Aw, here it goes.
Thank you for listening. You can send us an email at KenanKelPodcast@gmail.com or leave us a voicemail at anchor.fm/KenanKelPodcast. You can find us on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, all at KenanKelPodcast.
Was there like a movie where there's like a little kid and the only way that he or she is like calm is when the caretaker like hurts themselves?
What?
I gotta find. I don't know what I'm talking about.
Me neither.
Oh boy! Somebody. Oh my God! What is that? Is that Big Daddy with Adam Sandler? Is that where it was from?
Okay, I think I see where you're getting at. Yeah, Big Daddy.
I don't know. Anyways, we don't need to include this part in the episode.